some lip gloss. Lind has directed, here we go, first look up. I know this. John Waters. John Waters. I think it's time to fix your hair again. And that I have something on my lip. Do I? It came back. It came back blue. Hey guys. Sorry, my teeth. Sorry, that was my daughter. Hey guys, welcome back. So I eased you in a little bit the last time that you were here, that I was going to be changing things up a little bit in my life, period. I'm going to be just incorporating things that make me feel good, and movies and makeup make me feel good. So it's going to be a little bit of everything here. It's going to be a little bit of movies, a little bit of makeup, a little bit of both intertwined. My bread and butter, my heart has always been held by horror movies. And there are some that I've loved since I was little, and I just don't understand why they are not talked about more. Even on movie lists where they say, oh, top 10 movies that aren't ever talked about, or top 10 movies that no one talks about, blah, blah, blah. I still don't see these movies, and maybe that should be a sign that I am the only one that likes them. Irregardless, today we're going to be looking at 10 movies that I love, that are horror genre, that I don't hear anybody talk about. I don't hear it. You may judge me harshly, but it's okay. I'm prepared. I've been judged. Let's get started with my first movie. Now, this one I have heard people talk about, but I don't see it in top 10 lists or top 100 lists of all-time horror movies, and that is Fright Night. I'm going to try and do this to the best of my ability, so I'm going to read you a little synopsis from each movie, and I've also tried to incorporate some fun facts about the movie. So, Fright Night. Fright Night was made in 1985. It is about Charlie Brewster, which is a typical teenager, and he has a man move in next door to him. There's something different about this man. It says teenage Charlie Brewster is a horror movie junkie, so it's no surprise when a reclusive new neighbor named Jerry Dandridge, which is played by Chris Sarandon. I love him. I had the hugest crush on this man during this movie. Oh my God. Brewster becomes convinced he is a vampire. So it's also no surprise when no one believes him. So I love this movie. It's not a scary movie, but it is super fun. It is a fun movie, and if you watch it for nothing else but to see that hot freaking dance scene with Chris Sarandon. Anyway, so this movie is directed by none other than Tom Holland. No, not Tom Holland, Spider-Man Tom Holland. Tom Holland, the director. Tom Holland is not, how many times can I say that? Tom Holland. Take a shot. Tom Holland is no stranger to horror movies. He is why we have Child's Play. He did Psycho 2. He has done the Hatchet movies. He is just an all-around great, fun time director when it comes to horror films. And this movie, if you like a good time, if you like vampires, you will love this movie. And I strongly suggest this movie. This movie was also the top grossing summer horror flick in 1985, right in front of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. That's a different story. Not a fan of that one. No, I love myself some Freddy Krueger, but I am not a fan of that one. Okay. Here's where I may lose a little bit of credibility if I didn't lose you on the first one. You're definitely probably going to leave on this one, so thanks for dropping by. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Listen, this movie terrified the shit out of me when I was a child. Terrified me to the point where I honestly and truly believed that Mary Lou was in my closet when I was a child. If that's not terror, I don't know what is.
See you later, alligator.
She took the keys to
Her eyes, the actress Lisa Schrag, I think it is, her eyes are so blue they are almost see-through, and there was just something so terrifying about that. I also have an intense fear of burning, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it and you have any interest in seeing it, she does die at her prom and she burns to death.
For Prom Night, Mary Lou Maloney.
A little bit about that movie. Decades after promiscuous teen Mary Lou Maloney dies during a prank gone wrong, she returns as a spirit to revenge and eager to punish the culprit, her one-time boyfriend, which is played by Michael Ironside, in case anybody knows who that is. I know I've heard the name, I know I've seen his face, but I can't remember for the life of me what he was in. It's just fun. It's an all-around good romp. It's fun. It's a turn your brain off kind of horror movie. It's dumb in a sense, but it's just still fun to me, and I absolutely will defend that movie till my dying day, guys. I will. You don't like it, come for me. I love that movie. Almost every single character in that movie was a namesake of a infamous and famous horror director, such as Wes Craven, Stephen King, George A. Romero, Todd Browning, Joe Dante, John Carpenter, and John Waters. I thought that was a really creative and neat thing of them to do. It's not the first time I've heard of it. I know they did it in Scream as well. Now, there's 4 of them. There's the original Prom Night, Prom Night 2, Prom Night 3, Prom Night 4. Don't watch past Prom Night 2 because they get real bad. But this movie was actually tasked to be called The Haunting of Hamilton High. There's 2 scenes that always stick out to me, and that is the locker room scene and the horse scene where she's riding the horse. If you know, you know. Ron Oliver was given the task to rewrite parts of this movie that the director and the writers were not happy with. He was given 1 week and $100,000, and those 2 scenes that I always remember were part of his rewrite process. Next. So this movie, my child, which has grown up watching horror movies since she was just like me. She grew up watching Nightmare on Elm Street and all the other. I didn't watch Friday the 13th too much because there was too much TNA. So, but she was never scared. One of her favorite movies when she was growing up was called The Possession. It's about this little box thing, and Insidious. So she was not scared of horror. Refused to finish this movie. She got halfway through and she's like, I can't do it anymore. And that is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. This is an actually terrifying movie. Not only was it based, I'm just going to say it was loosely based on a real life incident of a young girl named Michelle. I don't want to pronounce her name wrong, so I'm going to put it right here. But it was based on actual events. This poor girl And there's photos of this girl. And I'm not gonna, if you want to do the research, you do the research. I don't want to get in any trouble for any kind of copyright shenanigans. So you do the research. So there's a reverend, and he is prosecuted for the death of this girl. And the half of the movie is the trial, and half of the movie is the actual incidences and flashbacks. And Jennifer Carpenter plays Emily. Another interesting fact, aside from one scene, every facial movement, every body movement, every sound, all came from this girl. They all came from Jennifer Carpenter. There are some insane things that this girl does with her body that is terrifying.
Emily?
Don't touch me!
There is a scene in a dorm room where she is laying on the dorm room floor and her boyfriend wakes up and looks down, and there she is, completely contorted with this look on her face. It's like a silent scream. And incidentally, that is how she landed the part. And she deserved every damn bit of it, because she should have won an Oscar for that role. She was phenomenal. Moving on. So this movie is popular if you are a horror fan. However, I don't hear anybody ever put it on a list. And again, as a child, I grew up watching this, and it scared the living shit out of me. And it is Pumpkinhead. That movie scared the hell out of me. And incidentally, this movie, if you've ever heard of Stan Winston, he is a hugely famous special effects artist. And he even has his own special effects line. And thought that this should be his first venture into actually directing a horror movie himself. And I think he did an amazing job. The suspense is amazing. It's unsurpassed. It's just good. Now, is it campy? Is it stupid? A little bit. Yeah, it is a little bit campy. It came out back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. When the hell did it come out? It came out back in the time where that was big. If you are looking for some fun in the vein of Friday the 13th, Bloody Valentine, Nightmare on Elm Street, that kind of camp. If you are into that, I'm fairly sure you will like Prom Night. Prom Night was directed by Paul Lynch. So Prom Night is directed by Paul Lynch, most infamously stars Jamie Lee Curtis. They actually couldn't even get financing for this movie because it was so ahead of its time. It was a little bit before the campy slasher flicks really got started. They didn't even get financing till Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to come on board, and that's when it was greenlit. This film was shot in just 24 days, which is unheard of. But maybe that's where some of the downfalls come in, but I still say it's a damn good movie for its time, and it still holds to this day. I made the mistake of watching this next movie alone by myself at my apartment at night. And let me just tell you, I paid for it. I was checking every closet, every door, and every lock to make sure that everything was secured when this movie was watched. And that is The Strangers, which stars Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman. Not to be confused with The Strangers Pray at Night, which that is an awesome movie as well. However, I'm talking about the original. This movie was shot with all handheld cameras, which again is not common in this day and age to be shot with just handheld, no cranes or anything like that. So, The Strangers is about a couple named Kristen and James that are having problems. So, they decide to go away for a relaxing weekend in their family's, I'm assuming their family's cabin. And this girl comes to the door and asks, "Is Tamara home?" Scary? No. However, when she comes back again and just says, "Is Tamara home?"
Is Tamara here?
No. No, you got the wrong house.
I'm just like, red flags are going off, lock the door, call the cops, but you can't because this family of strangers starts stalking them in their own home. Their home is not safe. You can't lock the doors. You can't hide because they're coming for you and they're coming into your house. They destroy the car. There is no means of getting away. And that to me is absolutely terrifying. Your own home, which you're supposed to be safe in, is no longer safe and you are being hunted. So, next movie, I am moving on to a little bit more of a body horror kind of movie. We are going to be taking a look at The Ruins. It's a story of 4 teenagers that go backpacking. They come across an archaeological dig in Mexico where they are backpacking. They are faced by these carnivorous vines and it forces them to fight for their own survival. This movie is there's a scene, and if you know, you know. There's this scene where the girl has the vines in her leg, and spoiler alert, don't listen if you don't want to know. 3, 2, 1. They find her standing there, just cutting into her own leg, just like she is in a trance, and she's just viciously going at it. And it is just some of the most intense body horror that I have ever seen.
Oh my God. It's okay.
Now, I have not read the book that this is based on, but from what I have heard, the book is even more gory and detailed in its body horror than this is. And this is pretty horrific as far as the body horror goes. If you like you don't have a weak stomach as far as body horror goes, because this could make you sick, and you like early 2000s kinds of movies, you will love The Ruins. We're going to move on to another person in a movie that I had a huge crush on, and that is Josh Hartnett. And we are going to be talking about The Faculty. I love this movie. Again, extremely early 2000s, but it's fun. It's fun. It has humor in it. It's just your high school kind of horror movie, but its twist is it has aliens in it.
Put him the fuck down, Furlong.
This is for the best, Zeke.
It is about a high school that is plagued by its faculty becoming aliens, and they are trying to turn everybody in the school into them. And you get down to the last group of teenagers, and now they have to fight for their lives. Just your classic movie of all different groups of people coming together to have to battle it out. But you throw in some aliens in there and you get just a good fucking time. It's just fun. And did I happen to mention that Josh Hartnett is in that movie? Oh, he's beautiful. Just beautiful. Moving on. Okay, guys, we're down to 2. very different ends of the spectrum. One is just terrifying because of its viciousness, and the other one is terrifying because, to me, things like losing your memory or not being in control of your own body scares me. So, first, let's talk about another vampire movie. We're going to talk about 30 Days of Night. Again, Josh Hartnett. I'm starting to see a pattern here. So, this takes place in Alaska. And in Alaska, there is apparently a solid month of nothing but darkness. I mean, could you ask for a better scene for a horror movie, especially tying in vampires? Though most of the residents head south for the winter, some townspeople remain behind. However, those that stay soon regret their decision when one year hungry vampires descend on their small town. That's scary. I mean, and the vampires in this movie are absolutely vicious. We're not talking about Twilight. We're talking about absolutely bloodthirsty, do not have a soul vampires. This goes back to vampire roots. There is no romancing it. And speaking of romancing it, David Slade, which is the director, incidentally also directed Twilight Eclipse. Another one of my men, Robert Pattinson, Team Edward, all the way. But this movie scares me purely for the absolute horror of what these vampires are. They are nothing but blood-seeking machines. We are human blood bags to them. There is no reasoning with them. There is no bargaining with them. And that, to me, is terrifying. And last but not least, this one is not as hardcore as 30 Days of Night, but it's still fun and it's still scary to me. And that is The Skeleton Key. Skeleton Key stars Kate Hudson, and she plays a home visiting nurse, which finds a job too good to be true, goes to stay at this beautiful home, but there's something a little off with its residents. And that's where the horror comes in. Turn it off if you don't want to know, because I'm going to be getting into spoilers. She finds out that the wife has been keeping her husband under complete lock and key because that's not her husband. It is a little bit of voodoo, a whole lot of fun.
All that circle protects is you from leaving it. You stay back!
She finds strange artifacts which have this dark history to them, and she can't just let well enough alone. She starts to investigate, and sushi I don't even like sushi. I just ate hamburger helper. As she delves into more and more of the darkness of the mansion, she soon finds that they are not only after her husband, they're after her. They want to take her body. They take her body and they put their soul into it, and they put her into the old woman. Can you imagine being that old woman trying to explain to someone, I'm a 20-some-year-old girl, what are you talking about? That's terrifying. Nobody's going to believe you. They're going to throw you in the loony bin. It scared me. But it was also super fun. So that's it, guys. Those are 10 movies I don't ever hear anybody talk about, and I feel like they should. They're fun, they're dark, and there's a little something for everybody. If you like body horror, you have it. If you like just fun slasher movies, there's someone there too. So I hope that you enjoyed this list. If you did, please let me know. That way I can continue to make this kind of content and not waste everybody's time. But Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys. Mwah.